So we're recording on that one. We're recording there.
I didn't know we had video. I got my hand up.
Yeah. Can I just the one good thing? A top screen.
Now, I'd like to see the Northern Lights. To be fair, my first 2 years of my working life when I was 16, which was 85, 86 time, I was on the fishing trawlers out of Hull. So we went right fishing. And I remember the skipper saying to me, look, son, people pay to see that.
To do, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the map, there's places leap out on the map, and the sinister one with Murmansk. Because didn't they find some bodies at Murmansk, and they wondered if it might be people off the Goal.
Oh, the Goal.
Yeah, that's just something I remember from a while ago. So you're looking at Murmansk on the map and you're thinking, we're nearly there.
Yeah.
I think it's just a bit spooky.
Old spooky, all that.
Yeah.
Especially some of the stuff I've been watching on Aliens this weekend.
Yeah.
I downloaded some documents off the CIA's website, and it just blew my mind. But it's for some prep I'm doing for another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, madness. Absolutely madness. Right then, we're just all good to go. So let me just make sure I've got that recording. That is recording on there. We're good to go. We're back.
Certainly am, mate.
And we've finally got Phil Ascough into the studio.
It took a while.
Yeah, it took a couple of years, to be honest,
yeah.
since we started. But it's good to have you on the show, Phil. And I can see you've done your prep.
I have. Yeah, I've pulled out some books and I've given you a bit of music to look at.
Yeah, we're all good to go,
I've
aren't
got
we?
some notes, yeah.
So, Phil, the sort of first question I always ask, which is a little bit off script, but if we were sat around a dinner table and I had to introduce you to that first time we'd met, I said to you, Phil, what is it you do? What have you done? Give me a bit of background.
The job title these days, originally it was journalist, but then you move on because you have to, because of the state of journalism. So that it's journalist, author, and media and PR consultant. And that really means working with businesses, charities, other organizations to help them get publicity. And then every now and then doing a bit of recreational writing for myself. And if that's a book, then great. But books are hard work as well, incredibly hard work, and they don't pay much money.
How many books have you published?
I've done about half a dozen. And they're all brilliant. I can give you a list. And I can tell you where you can get them. But I haven't done one for a few years. They're all sports related. I think they're all quiz books. But I did a couple, and then people came to me and asked me to do special titles for this, that, and the other. So there's a Hull City quiz book. There's, what else? There's something about the Football World Cup, the Rugby World Cup. That was a challenge because I don't know much about rugby. But you don't need to because you research all these things properly. And I'm now thinking, do I write about anything in particular? And the answer is no, because if you go to a business, you've got to write about what they want you to write about. So you can't go in there saying, I can't write that. You go away and research it, and then you do it. And you have to do it in a way that communicates it to the readers. You become pretty good at researching things, making sense of them, and communicating them to others. And it's amazing that an awful lot of people in journalism and in the wider media can't do that.
Yeah, but we always say this, don't we? Sometimes what's simple for you isn't simple for the people.
Yeah, and what's simple for them is a nightmare for me.
Yeah, and I think we worked with you for some time. You do a great job of promoting the Deep and all the great work the Deep does. You've always backed us from the Man Club and getting different stories out there. But I think there's a super skill. I've sat with you before, and I've just got thinking, I ain't got a clue what I've said to him. And then I read what's come back, and I thought, I did say that, but I didn't say it as eloquently as that. And
Yeah.
do you get what I mean? And it's a super skill, but a very distinguished career there. And I think what I found really interesting and why I want you on the show is that this show speaks to a whole array of different people, from business owners to people from the Man Club listening. We have a load of different people listening. And we've always, whenever we meet and have a brew, it's never just a brew. He goes off down one subject to another subject. We were sharing music last time, weren't we?
Yeah.
And what I found remarkable is exactly in the work you do is stories have the power to change lives, I think.
I think they do. And that's the way I try to work. If I'm doing a press release to somebody, I try and do it so that the media on getting it will use it pretty much word for word. And to achieve that, you've got to tell the story. You'll get press releases from some people that will just give you basic facts. And the media then have to pick that up, reorganize it, turn it into something that suits them. And that can be a difficult process. And it also means that the more you're asking them to write, the more opportunity you're giving them to introduce errors to what you're sending. you're also giving them the opportunity to dilute your key messages, which with something like Andy's Man Club is a real problem, because your key messages really are key, potentially life-saving, aren't they?
Yeah.
But
Well,
you don't want people
poten-
messing
Yeah,
about with that.
no, it's like saying, and I think the challenges are, and I think, let's take Andy's Man Club there, for example. It's such a simple message, but sometimes people try and overcomplicate it, don't they?
Yeah.
And we see that a lot, don't we? But I think we should start digging in, because I'm really interested to see what makes Phil tick.
You wait, Phil, with the first
I'm going to
question.
go,
then.
being a bit of an author yourself,
Yeah.
you know, I'm always intrigued to what 1 to 3 books that you've read that sort of greatly changed or influenced your life.
I've brought 2 that I've read, 1 that I've written and read, and there's different things behind all of them. So Kissing the Badge is the first book I did, and that was a commission from, it's on the 8C Black label, but they're part of Bloomsbury, which is massive.
It's huge.
And I like to tell people that they came to me about this, and they did. I used to work with them when I worked in Press Association on Loads and Loads of Football. We talked about a Premier League quiz book for 20, 21 years of the Premier League, whatever it was. And they came to me and asked me to do it. And I like to say it's because Bloomsbury had just lost J.K. Rowling. She'd just stopped doing the Harry Potter.
And you
So
took their
we did
place.
this. I didn't get anything like as much cash for it. And I don't think it troubled the top 10.
No.
But it's a lovely book, and it was ahead of anybody else doing Premier League quiz books. And it's beautifully illustrated by a guy who the editor found. And it's just fun. And it's in good nick, because I don't let many people touch it. But you can touch it.
Oh,
There you
thank you.
I've noticed on there, there's Eric Cantona on there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Seaman,
John Terry.
John Terry, you know, so, you know, some icons there, aren't they?
Yeah, there
Yes.
is.
But, well, what is it what you learned through that process? And because
I learned how long it takes to do a book and how little you get back from it. I mean, it was worth it with that one, because we were on our advance, which still hasn't been earned out. And they came back to me, we did another one about the Olympics called Armchair Olympian, because I'm not going to go running around a track or anything like that. But it was an Olympic quiz book. It was to tie in with the London Olympics. And it was for people to sit in the chairs watching the Olympics and just have a bit of information in there about who did the most this, the fastest that, and whatever. And that there are some, it's hard to research, and it'd be more difficult now, because a lot of the data that I went through then is now protected and locked away because people want to monetize it. But amazing things like the fellow who won a marathon years and years ago, and then they found out he'd got a lift.
I
did-
did you know this? You want yours?
No, I did the Great North Run in 2007.
The taxi.
And I did the Great North, right? The year before, we had to get bits of weather tax. We had to get tags in 2007, because previously a guy had gone over the start and then got a bus to the end. So that's why they brought the tags in. So what Phil just said then is real.
Yeah.
Bit of a funny one. I've run in the same race as Mo Farah. So in 2007, when I got over the start line, Mo Farah had finished.
Yeah, what it was the first time I'd done a book. So
Yeah.
it teaches you can do a book.
Yeah.
It teaches how hard it is, and it leaves you better equipped to do the next one. So it must be all right, because I did another one with Bloomsbury, and then I think it was the History Press came to me and said, could I do one on this, that, and the other? So
So how long does
I
it
think I've
take
done
you?
4 with them.
Because I'm intrigued.
I would say, because I can't stop the other work, then maybe 3 months. And that's really long working days. If I could stop the other stuff, then maybe you could probably do it in a month. And the way you do
That's
it, you work out what you're going to write about. You work out what your chapters are. And in that one, you'll see that we haven't got chapter 1, chapter 2. It's split into different sections. So there might be one about managers. There might be one about goal scorers. There might be one about goalkeepers. I think there might be.
Heroes and villains.
Yeah.
Discipline.
Yeah.
England's finest. Star imports. Best in the world. Controversies. That sounds a good one. So you set out the framework first.
Yeah. You ought to think about what you've seen from all those years of football, and you flick through a few things and come up with the ideas and think, right, these will be good headings that'll get people interested. And then you just scribble down the things that you remember, and then just research them a bit more. Think, oh, here's another one I've forgotten about that. Cantona, the Kung Fu kick. Obviously,
Crystal Palace.
that's
Yeah.
in there. Yeah. But there's been loads of other Premier League controversies. And we've had another however many years since then.
Yeah.
So it becomes more a case of what to leave out.
Yeah.
Because you can't end up with a massive book. and then just getting into it, researching it, double checking everything because everything's got to be right.
That's the challenge now, Phil, as well now. I teach obviously in the tech space, so I'm talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and there's a big thing at the minute where there's loads of this chat GPT-3 and all these different models of artificial intelligence, right? But everyone's getting a little bit excited that it's going to replace jobs. And to a point, I just wrote an article where I think it's 21 industries that artificial intelligence is going to disrupt. But the key point, what people don't realise is, like we have Excel and we have formulas to do mathematics and things, right? It's exactly that. We've got a tool that, if it's used right, can do amazing things, but it's only as good as the person putting the input into it. And also, so you're going to see AI is not going to replace people. People with AI are going to replace people, if that makes sense. So you're going to see jobs getting disrupted, but by people who know how to use it. So a great story to tell like yourself, if you was able to use AI to a point, it would allow you to brainstorm and do different bits. I'm just checking on here. No, we're still going. I'm just glad to it. You're right, Paul. I didn't set a button up. 1 minute. We'll come back to it. Oh, it's still recording. No story. We had this last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
This little set. For some reason. That's it gone now. Sorry. Just remember the time, Paul, from 10, 12 minutes. We put right down 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
And we'll sort it out. For some reason, where is it? Right. There we go.
Did this last week and it just went off for some reason.
Yeah.
The screen went blank.
It's this button here.
As long as I haven't broken it.
No, it's still working.
I'll get the blame for it, but it won't me.
Yeah, it goes, because it's using loads of power because of the two cameras, dulls the screen, but you think it's not recording, but it's still that.
Oh, yeah.
It's still recording that.
Yeah.
But last week, when we didn't check it, it's still recording. Well, what we do was 12 what?
12 till 13 minutes, really.
I'll start that one again about AI.
Yeah.
We're good?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like artificial intelligence. I just wrote an article, 21 jobs I think are going to be disrupted by AI, right? But on the flip side of that, it's not AI that's going to replace you. It's people who are using AI. And it's like anything. You're a natural wordsmith. And it comes natural to you because you've been doing that craft for however many years and, and you're getting it, right? But then imagine if allowing you to brainstorm and be more creative could be taken from all the research that's been done on loads of other books and loads of other formats. It will make your ideas better and more quality, but it's only as good as the person using it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And what excites me is this new era we're in, putting artificial intelligence in someone like your hands. What amazing stories could you come up with? And what amazing creativity. Because like anything, if we look at these books written in any book, it's the 80-20 principle, isn't it? There's always 20% of what's absolute gold, and the other 80% is context and not so much filler, but you might be talking about Eric Cantona, and I straight away know that he played for Leeds and he did, and I know a lot of context. You might have never known that, so you need that 80% to get that context.
Exactly, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it just excites me to see where it goes. What's your thoughts on the way this tech's going? Because it's massively disrupting your industry.
You talk about me being really good at words and other people not being good at words. I'm rubbish at tech.
Yeah.
And anything mechanical or anything. The trip we've just been on to Finland, my wife drove the snowmobile because I'd be rubbish. Because when we lived abroad and we could only travel on mopeds, I was hopeless on my moped and switched it and got a car. If we needed to go anywhere on a moped, I rode on the back of her. She's an ex-biker. She used to have I think it was a Suzuki 250. So she drove the snowmobile. And then when it came to, there was a dog sled thing and somebody had to drive that, and I let her do that as well. I'm just rubbish at things like that.
Yeah, but I remember.
I'm fine in a car, better than her in a
It's
car.
because you're creative.
I think so, yeah. And I think outside of the creativity, I do the things that need doing in the simplest way and maybe for the shortest time. I can't drive long distances. I'm fine zooming around. Well, I love zooming around, do it a lot. But get in the car and driving the motorway to somewhere like Gould.
It's not even far.
Never mind anywhere else.
Yeah, but I was talking to Phil. I was talking to Phil off that. And Phil has just said a statement that I said a couple of years ago. I'm rubbish at tech. I don't do tech. But then he was explaining me how to alter his camera, and he's doing this to get the best pictures of the Northern Lights. So Leon would challenge me back and go, "You're using tech."
But that's in the simplest
That's
way.
tech.
And it's something I needed to do to get the pictures we wanted from the Northern Lights. And I can do the basics on my desktop at home. But things like AI, I don't know. I mean, what I am thinking is that this idea of something that, a system that can just throw all the words at you that might appear in a story.
But the way it works, and it can do that if it's not used properly. But for example, what you can do is, and here's a couple of examples, right? You can tell it to think like a Harvard, an Oxford or Cambridge or some different Mid Sloan Institute, some professor from one of these institutes, right? And you might say, how does it know? Because there's lots of research papers that have been written by these different organizations, right? So what it can do is, it already knows like a context, and technology is simple. It's not as clever as what we think. And you'll know this, and correct me if I'm wrong, writing is a set of patterns.
Yeah.
There's a set of patterns to it. So I'm dyslexic, so there's a limit. I've learned over the years, because I push myself, I can now see patterns. So I know roughly that there should be 3 sentences to a paragraph, give and take. I now understand there's certain ways you can do it. And then because I've got involved in sales and marketing, the way that you use marketing words compared to you use grammatical words, it throws it out the window. So, for example, they would say traditionally you wouldn't use "and" to start a sentence, but you technically can, can't you, Phil?
I was going to say, I think you can afford to just ditch a lot of the rules when it comes to writing, and hopefully AI can appreciate that as well. What you're saying about context is spot on. As we go through these, there's something about how do you wake up, motivate yourself, stuff like that. If I'm struggling to make a start on the story, one trick I do is just go back over some of the other stuff I've written. So I might be writing a piece about, I don't know, anything, buses or something like that. And I might think, let's just have a look through something I've done about ThinkCloud, because there might be a nice turn of phrase in there, and there might be a nice flow to the article. And that reminds me of different ways of approaching the story. And I might look at 3 or 4 different pieces and then go back to it and have another go. And it just refreshes your brain. It shows you've done it before. And it's like writer's block. If you go back through some of the stuff, whether you've written it yourself, or it's better if you've written it because you're going to understand it more and it's more relevant, then that can set you off again. And even little things like when I have a coffee break in the morning, which I've tried to make a point of doing in the last few years, we'll cover that as well. I'll pick up a crossword and just do that for 10 minutes, because doing a crossword tells you different words that mean the same thing. That's what a crossword is. And it just makes your mind a little bit more creative before you go back to your desk. Now, some of the words will be rubbish because some of the crosswords are rubbish, but that you also learn from that as well. And you think, well, you can't just use a word that means the same because you need the context and everything else. So I'll be really interested to see if AI can capture all of that.
We'll take it offline because, but on it generally can.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, but it's like anything. It can read, the more information you feed it. So for me, myself, there's a set style I've learned to write on a lot of our blogs and newsletters, but I can't see that pattern at times, right?
Yeah.
So for me, what I have to do is I have to write, and then I'll use AI to get it to a structure. And then what I will do is I will read it out aloud. That's the only way I can make the words make sense to me when I read out aloud. So that's why I'm in my little office and there's me reading to myself. But what it does is for me, being dyslexic, is it gives me a framework to then go, I won't say it like that.
Yeah.
And I'll go back. And then what it can do is it's got enough data now, enough training data that it's picked up my natural tone and my tone, the way I express myself. So a lot of the times I might use AI to dictate into it, get a bit of the context. And then what I'll say is the best one that I love is asking it to explain it to a 10th grader.
Yeah.
Because in life, we can be too complicated, can't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you do in anything you write, you've got to remember the relevance in your audience, and you've got to make sure it connects with them.
Yeah. And this is where I think for AI, where I think for someone like me who isn't a natural writer, if that technology was put in your hands, a bit like a Formula 1 car, you can give me a Formula 1 car, but I won't know how to use it, right?
Yeah.
And whereas yourself, because you already know the foundations of it, it's a bit like what I always think, and I'm trying to teach people on AI is, think of it like a Formula 1 driver understands aerodynamics. They understand braking lines and cornering. They understand the fundamentals of making a car go fast.
Yeah.
Right, relevant. It doesn't matter how fast your car can go. There's a limit to the physics of how it works. Same with writing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And AI, if you understand that common functionality, it might be something simple as sometimes I have to come up with topics. I might understand what I've put. You just read right, I'll say, right, brainstorm 20 topics based, but you can even use Michelle Obama as a context. or I could go find a load of your writing, put your writing into it, and it would give me a topic based on how you would traditionally write. And then it allows you to be more creative. I can see you know.
Get that. Yeah, I love that, because that'd probably be great for me, because I'm not the best at putting things down and getting topics. I'm good at talking and delivering, but I'm not the best at.
We have to look at it as simple as no different.
It'd be a great tool for me.
It's a way to do, and it's just that next thing, and I'm all over with it. What's the next book?
Well, the next two books, they're both relevant to what we've just been talking about. Harry Pearson, The Far Corner. Harry's a journalist, columnist, and he's written a few books. This is the only one I've got, and I keep meaning to buy more, but I haven't read many books in the last few years. I read lots and lots of other stuff, and as a kid, I read loads of books. I'd take 6 on holiday and read them all. Well, that was even as a young man. With this, it's a different approach to football. So that the first one is all about Premier League football. This is about non-league football in the North East, or all football in the North East.
Grassroots.
And going to places like North Shields. You know, what was it they call it? You've got the El Clasico, haven't you, between Real Madrid and Barcelona. And then you've got the match between North Shields and South Shields, which they call the Working Clasico.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And it's just him going to loads of football grounds in the North East. I think there might be a bit of Newcastle in there, but it's mainly the grassroots thing. And I can't remember when I got it, but I'd already started doing grassroots stuff around here then, because there was a website called the Real FA Cup, and that's not about anything to do with Wembley or anything else. It's to do with the early rounds when the non-league teams are in it. And I used to write some stuff for them. So I did a match at North Ferriby when they were playing whoever at home in the FA Cup. And I went to Barton Town Old Boys and did something there, and something up at Brick Town. And they also expanded it to non-league teams in the local area. So I went and did an afternoon with Easington United, and we wrote about one of their matches, and it was against, is it Chalk Lane or Chalk Park? And we're going back a few years. Johnny Whiteley turned up with
Chalk Lane.
Chalk, and he was on the touchline. I was having a chat with him, got a bit of input from him for it as well. And I just think it's a bit cliched that you're giving recognition to keep people who keep the game alive, although you are. But it's just getting the message across that you can go there. You see all sorts of funny little things that you'll never get at a football match. Like at Easington, the tea shop is an old shipping container, and there was a little woman in there who had been running it for years, and I had a cup of tea and a blue ribbon, and I'd never seen a blue ribbon for a long time. I was beginning to think Easington was the only place that sold it.
Great biscuit.
So and his writing style is fantastic. He's got a lovely turn of phrase, and so from this, it strengthened my interest in lower level football and trying to build the market to get more people interested in it, but also the writing style. And I changed my writing style and developed it a bit from reading this. Okay. And Harry's on Twitter, and he's very entertaining. He's got another one about cricket in North Yorkshire, and that's called Sleepless in Seattle. Sleepless in Seattle, sorry. And a few other things. And it's just proper grassroots. It's proper communities, proper people. A lot of things that big football isn't.
And that's why he's back to that point when he's not stories of, because the magic of the FA Cup is amazing. Me and the wife have just been watching all the Rocky movies.
Yeah.
And the reason being is Creed. Have you seen Creed?
Yes.
So we watched the first Creed, and she'd never watched the Rocky movie. I only discovered this after we watched the first Creed movie. And then we went back, and she's just in love with Rocky, the character. But I think in life we are in love with that. We see the underdog in all of us, don't we?
Yeah.
I think that's where it becomes, we always want to see the underdog do good, don't we? And especially, I think in Hull, I think in our region, we love the underdog.
One of the best programs I've watched recently is the Salford one, where the
football,
Gary Neville and all that have taken over Salford.
Yeah.
But
the class of 98,
class of 94, something like that. And what I love is the grassroots at the beginning. Like now they've taken over and developed it. But what I love to watch is the lady in the tea room who has spent 25 years there for no pay. The guy who looks after the ground and clears the stadium up of the rubbish and maintains it for free. And just seeing them people embedded in that club for years upon years. And I watch them programs not because of seeing Gary Neville. I love what they do, but seeing them people who give the time for nothing. Because we see it all over. We've spent a lot of years in grassroots rugby, And we see them people who was in Salford all over the place because every pub needs them. And I think that book,
Sounds like it's
it is exactly that.
The strapline's amazing dribble through Northeast football, and that's exactly what it is. And every chapter in it is a delight.
Yeah.
And that's another thing about writing books. I could never write a novel. You might have 300 pages of stuff that's got to tell a story. If you've got to write a book, if you don't think you can write a book, think about it this way. Don't write a book. Just write maybe 30 essays of 1,500 words each. Now, that might put a lot of people off, but it's not that difficult. You think of 30 things that you really know that you can really write about, and they can be connected, but they don't have to be. These aren't connected other than they're about football.
No, and that's it.
He's gone to a number of different places. He's written however many words, and you throw it together.
But he's passionate about it, and he's got an interest. And I think the interesting bit, and I always go back, I get asked a lot about me being dyslexic, is I do a lot of work on our blog. I have a newsletter that goes out, but I'm doing exactly the same thing. I thought I'm going to write 30 really good articles, productivity, all different things that really interest me. And I'm going to try and stitch it together in some format as a book. But I think what it's about is just challenging yourself, isn't it? I think that's what I'm taking from what you're saying.
But also adjusting the challenge to make it manageable for you.
Yeah.
The stuff I write for the whole story, I'm doing a series of interviews with them.
We explain a bit more about that, because I found this really interesting.
Yeah, it's something I used to do when I was at the Mail in the 90s as business editor. We used to do a back page business section column, and I would take somebody out for lunch, write about them and write about the restaurant. And nobody's been doing that. And I was talking to the guys at the whole story, and we thought, let's do it, but not just about business. I take somebody out, we have lunch. It's nearly always somewhere in Hull, but for the latest one, it's about Marion Owen, who runs a travel business here, has done 30 years. And I thought, I'm going on her trip to Iceland. So we'll talk out there, and we'll write about the food out there, because the food's incidental. It's mainly about business. She's got 30 years doing what she's doing, plus the years working for other people before that. And it just made a real nice piece. Before that, Emma Hardy was a good one, really good. Mike Ross, the leader of the council. Various others. James Birch, who used to be manager of 1884 Dock Street Kitchen, and then opened, what was it called, Rupert and Darwin. Spoke to James about the issues in hospitality. So there's always a good angle there. And what we're trying to do is feature local restaurants as we go, and promote the fact that we've got some good stuff around here. But really, there's no script. We just talk about whatever people want to talk about. And a lot of it might be about the job, and a lot of it might not be. It won't just be any other rubbish that we get onto.
But ultimately, what you're doing is so different with this podcast that we've done. We've took 10 of our favourite questions we've read at Andy's Man Club. And them questions are when we sat like on a campfire, aren't we?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. We're sitting around a campfire, sharing stories, trying to share tips and little bits of wisdom that have helped us, or even more, be vulnerable, I can't say the word, be vulnerable and share it all. And I think that's where it becomes powerful. And what's the third book?
The third book is, it could be that last one I read. It's Half a Lettuce by Paul Sewell. And I've known Paul for a long time. When he was at Sewell Group, he was setting up a business called the Facilities Management Partnership. We're going back to the early 90s here, early to mid 90s. And when lockdown came and he started planning to release his book, he asked me to do some publicity for it. He sent me all the files because obviously I need to read it first and understand it. I'm not going to say I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. I knew I'd like it because I knew there'd be some interesting stuff in there because I've known it for so long. And I was blown away by how good it is, because it's got some really good business stuff in there that, again, anybody can learn from and anybody can take inspiration from. But then he's got his own story of growing up as a kid in Cottingham. And it's not rags to riches because he was never on the bones of his backside. But it was a fairly modest family upbringing, playing football, wanting to be a footballer, dealing with the disappointment as a young man when that didn't work out. And the main reason it didn't work out is because of injury. And then having just the nous and the drive to move on from that, make sure his education stacked up, and get into a sector that he knew nothing about, building, and make success of it the way he has. Now, even in the time that I've known him, he's developed massively as a person, from somebody who is a director of a building firm to somebody who's the chairman of a business that does all sorts of amazing things, plus all the spin-offs. You look at things he's been involved in for Entrepreneurs Only, Business Week, all sorts of hidden stuff. And it's just a really interesting read. The writing, again, is interesting because one of Paul's big mates is Alan Johnson, you know, the former MP. And I like Alan's books as well. They tell a similar sort of story, although he did start with nothing. Mum was a single parent. And I was doing an interview with Alan. I didn't get a chance to read the books first. So I did the interview first, and then I got all the books and I took them on holiday. And I read them all in a few days. And then I came back and I wrote the piece because it gave me a proper understanding. And there are things about Paul's style that he's picked up from Alan's style. And that's not a criticism whatsoever, because you learn from good stuff and you apply it in what you do. And that's what Paul's done. But he's also put his own spin on it, and he's applied it to his own scenario and his own story. And I just recommend it to anybody. And also, he's not selling it. He's giving it out for donation. So you buy this, you send a donation to Hull Animal Welfare Trust, they'll send you a book. So that's good. He's not doing it for the cash.
Yeah.
I know he's still got a few in his garage on a
I've got one on a shelf. I've read it.
Yeah, he's still got a few. But
I haven't read it. I'll have to read it.
I'd recommend it. It's a cracking read. It's great fun. There are some people who think anybody who does that well in business, they can't be very nice. Paul's brilliant. Like I said, knowing him a lot.
He gave us some time on a podcast tonight.
Yeah,
he
he spends
did.
a lot of time with him recently on this and then all sorts of other things.
Great.
And I just think it's a really good book, and people need to read it with an open mind, learn from things. They won't agree with everything in it, but you're not supposed to, are you?
No, and I think
People should take inspiration from it and realise that there's nothing they can't do except with me driving a snowmobile. But yeah, and I remember in writing about it, the way we approached it was pick out maybe half a dozen funny little stories to illustrate different aspects of his life and his career. And then I also wrote a review. And I came with a phrase which I know Paul liked, and I absolutely love it. I was writing about the deftness of his language, because some of it is very carefully written. It's very well crafted, but also the daftness, because it's Paul, and a lot of things that he says and does are daft. And we were talking about how just one letter, in one word, can make all the difference from deftness to daftness. Yeah. And for a book to capture all of that I think it shows something about just what a good read it is.
Right then, Phil, we've talked about your books. I'm going to find out about his music.
This will be interesting.
I noticed you've brought some music in today, but
He's let me some of it. We were talking about some music, Paul.
yeah,
And there was a couple of albums that you can't get on the old digital. You can't get it, and he's got them. So he's brought them into Henley.
Okay. So, what is your feel-good song or music that makes you feel good and gets you focused?
It's a track by the Comsat Angels, and it's called Field of Tall Flowers. And it's a summer song, classic summer song. And I've just had a week in the snow, but I asked the people in Finland, do they prefer winter or summer? And everybody prefers summer. Nearly everybody prefers summer. And it's just a really bouncy song, loads of guitar in it. And the line that gets me is, the sky's an endless ocean, the deepest kind of blue. Don't let September come too soon. And it helps that they're from Sheffield. They started in 1977.
Had you heard of them?
No. I'll have to listen to it.
And they were contemporary active. The Human League started the following year, but the Human League became more commercial. The Comsats never really did. They never really picked up that big following. The first time I saw them was at Salford University. Salford's getting a lot of mentions.
Yeah.
And it would have been about 1981.
Yeah, I was born. Yeah.
And I was working at the Hull Daily Mail, and there were a bunch of us went over to Salford University to see U2, supported by the Comsat Angels.
See U2?
Yeah.
Class.
U2 supported by the U2 were on the way up then. And we got there and we were working on the gig. A colleague of mine, Alan Burgess, he died a few years ago, poor Alan. Alan and the other guys fixed up to go for a Chinese meal with U2. Oh, come on, we're all going to get out down Chinatown with U2. And I'm staying at the university. I've got an interview booked with the Comsat Angels. Is that the worst or the best decision I ever made? I don't know. They were great guys, great band. And they've had a lot of changes over the years. I don't even know if they're still going at the moment. But it's a great track.
I'm going to have to listen to that one.
I thought you might have known them.
No, I haven't, but I will listen to it. I probably recognise the song, but I don't recognise the
You
name.
might not. It didn't get a lot of airplay.
Oh,
I once
didn't it?
heard it on Radio 5. But
I
that
couldn't
was at
find
the
it.
time
That's what
when
he's brought in.
everybody was
I
listening
couldn't
to
find it.
Radio 5.
Because he
So-
told me that awesome story, and he's still a fan. I thought, I've got to hear it.
Yep.
Because I found some music from him, and the music, like I say, from that era, all that music's good in that era.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just be interesting for me to learn more. I'm going to into the next one.
Go on then.
What purchase of £50 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or less?
I thought about this because it was a tricky one until the other week when I bought a pair of tights.
I know where this is going.
It was for the Finland trip.
Have you still got them on?
No.
And it's these sort of nylon leggings things that you put on as an extra layer. And I was looking at the temperature forecast for Finland, and I thought, I'm going to have a ski suit on and I'll have trousers under there, but apparently I need a pair of tights or leggings or whatever underneath. So I got these stretchy tights leggings things from Boys for about £3. I also got some goggles for about 25 quid, got them online. Didn't use the goggles in Finland. I thought about using them just to say I'd use them.
Yeah.
It never got bad enough for goggles.
You could have brought them today.
Without the tights, I'd have really struggled.
You would.
Yeah.
What did it get down to?
This was interesting because it never really got below about -3.
It's still cold.
But the guys there said at this time of year, it should be about -15, -20. So that is a worry. And it's a worry for them because if it keeps staying -3, they're going to have their season finishing in the middle of February rather than into March. But they've had a bit of -15 the week before. They're going to get some -15 this week. But I'll wear it for football as well, because there's some nights you go to City and your knees are still freezing at 3 a.m. But Jane did notice that if we'd been out all day, like we'd go they did a snowshoe walk and went tramping through the woods with snowshoes on for about 2 hours. It was chilling, it really was. And then something else after that, and I'd get back into the room. I'd be like, can't wait to get these tights.
Well, it's a first for us on the show. We've not had that, have we?
No, we've never had the answer that tights.
We always say no with the questions. We never have the same.
To go off on a tangent.
It was a lifesaver. And even with the goggles, all right, I didn't need them. But if we'd had a blizzard while we were there, and I hadn't had them,
This probably leads into the next question. Do you have a lesson from a failure of yours buying goggles?
Well, it wasn't a failure because they might come in handy.
Yeah.
And they would have come in handy if it hadn't been for the weather. Like I said, the weather was kinder than we expected.
No, really good.
Failures, the big bad one-off failure, and I think I mentioned this to you, was when I worked on the paper in Bermuda. And I was working on the arts and entertainment pages, and I had half a page to fill.
Just to give context back on this, though, because you just mentioned that, because I obviously know more, but explain in the first place. Paul sat there thinking, Bermuda?
Yeah.
Explain why he was actually writing in Bermuda.
All right, well, I'd been in Hull for 10 years, and I love Hull. Loved it then, love it now, but I thought I need to go away. Because if you stay in Hull forever, you're going to have problems. I was looking, in 1989, I was looking in the trade magazines for a job, and I thought, I'll go to London, I'll go and work down there for the Nationals. At the time, I was working on the Yorkshire Post, which was and still is a top paper, Yorkshire's national newspaper. So if I'd wanted to go down there, I could have got down there, no problem. But then this advert leapt out of the page, the Royal Gazette, Bermuda, advertising for reporters. So I've got that. And I think 300 people applied for the jobs. There were 3 jobs going, and I got one for it. So I went out there, and I said I would go for 3 years, and I did. I didn't necessarily expect to come back. I thought I'll go to Bermuda, and I'll just keep travelling, maybe to the States, Canada, Australia, and anywhere that wants Brit journalists. But a couple of months before I went there, I met my wife. She came out when I'd been there a few months, and we thought, we're not going to stay forever, because you don't want to do that. A lot of people have. It's not a good idea. And so when we came back on holiday one year, we booked a wedding and made sure we came back in 92. But during that 3 years in Bermuda, it was new skills. It was a completely different environment. It was interesting living there in as part of an ethnic minority, which I was. It wasn't my town, wasn't my country. There weren't my laws. You fit in, and everything worked pretty well. But you learn from that. You develop as a person. And I also worked it was at the time when computers were coming into newspapers. So it was in Bermuda where I learned how to do stories on a screen, draw pages, put pages together and get them ready to just send out. Because Bermuda, because it got everything from the States, was well ahead of what we were doing in this country. So that was all very handy. And I worked across all sorts of different things. I've always written about music, sport, news, sitting in court all day, sitting in councils all day. Out there, they don't have the council, they have the government, because they've only got 60,000 people. So you're not interviewing the council leader, you're interviewing the Premier of Bermuda.
Yeah.
Which was quite something. He didn't give many interviews, but he let me interview him. So that was a bit of a feather in the cap. And it's a remarkable place. It's expensive. I think it's worth the trip. You've got to save a bit. It's quite a trek, but it's a long season there. I think any time from about April, May through to October, it's nice. It's warm enough to swim. I went swimming there on Christmas Day, just because it was Christmas Day, but it was still good. And yeah, I'd recommend it. So I was doing this entertainment page, and I'd got a story about a play which was on in Dublin, and I've forgotten what it was called, but John Hurt was in it. Wonderful actor, one of my all-time favourites. And he was playing the role of Count Mushroom. And I just had to stick it on the page, put the words in, make sure it fits, put the picture in, caption, John Hurt as the outlandish Count Mushroom. And that's it, page is gone. The next day, I'm down at the rugby, the expats rugby team. There are 4 teams there, and every Saturday afternoon they'll be playing. And I'm just on the touchline, and I hear somebody down the way saying, "Did you see what the Royal Gazette called John Hurt?" Rubbish, don't believe it. I got home, checked the paper, and there it was, the outlandish Count Mushroom. There was a critical typo in the word count, and it was the worst thing it could be. Really.
Oh, you kidding me?
And it had gone out.
And it had gone out.
Yeah, it had gone out. And I got called into the editor's office on the Monday morning. The general manager found it, put a big ring around it in red, and dumped it on the editor's desk. And I said, "Look, I love John. I obviously wouldn't call him that deliberately. And if you've got his number, I'll give him a ring and apologise." But he probably hasn't seen it. But so that was just a one-off. It was something you always remember, but it
Some
probably
typo
hasn't
that, innit?
registered with anything else.
Yeah, I'd certainly remember that one.
No, great story.
Yeah, it was.
The more important lesson is it's just about being more challenging of others, and don't take them all at face value. The other side of that, of course, is you've got to be open for them to challenge you. And I think it's about honesty. It's about not giving in, and it's about making people earn the right, because you come through life and you take a lot of rubbish from people because of who they are or where they are, because you think this is the boss or this is whoever. Let's talk politicians now. It's wrong to say that all politicians are dodgy, because they're not. But we've got an especially dodgy lot of politicians at the moment, and they should be challenged every step of the way. And it breaks my heart to see too many in the media giving them an easy ride instead of challenging them. They've got to earn the right to be where they are and say what they're saying, and to lead.
But the challenge we have now, especially with the amount of media and things we have, and also the narrative where the political correctness, it's all just gone madness. It is absolutely madness out there. But I think for anything to get better, I think it has to get worse. I'm a big believer in that. I think it is beyond dire at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it will get worse. There's so many things going on, even over the weekend, that are just dragging it further and further down. You wonder how far down we can go.
But I think on that, we was very fortunate, and he's out this month. A great author called John Alexander. He wrote a book called Citizens. Read him on, didn't we?
Yep.
I think you will absolutely love what he has to say, because he's actually challenging that the whole model is wrong. It's not so much about the politicians. It's more around other citizens can do more stuff. We talk about all the time, real quickly, for anyone who won't listen to the John Alexander one. When you listen to this, go back and listen to it. He just talks about the way Andy's Mantle, for example. If we was waiting for the powers that be to solve this problem, we won't have an Andy's Mantle doing all this amazing work. So I think it's more around just re-empowering us all to actually do what we did in the 60s and 70s, where there was a bit of an uprising where we went and did proactive measures against it.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And I think that's what he's doing. I think the other side of it on that is, I know the 60s and 70s were bad because of the way the authorities and things dealt with it. But I think because of the way we do have social media now, I don't think that's ever going to be a problem. I don't think they dare challenge like they used to once challenge.
Yeah.
So I think even though it's going to get bad, I think we'll be better for it where it's going to go. But I am the eternal optimist. But you're going to do some of the, it's me next, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is your favourite quote saying? If you could share everyone in the world, what is it and why?
There's again, there's a few, and I can't claim they're original. And I don't know where this came from, but it's just the one about life being for real and not a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Because you do only get one chance at most things that are worth having. So you need to take, and if in doing that, you need to take advice, get people's help, then you do it. But at the same time, you go back to the one about challenging people. You make sure you're getting good advice and not advice from somebody who's just got a vested interest. And around here, the one I did come up with, and other people may have come up with, but the first time I heard it was when I said it. It's the thing about people slagging off Hull. People who slag off Hull have either never been here or they've never been anywhere else. And they think Hull's rubbish because they've never been, or they think Hull's rubbish because they've never been anywhere else, seen how bad loads of other places are. Yeah. All of those surveys, yeah. Hull's fantastic, and I know that from travelling to an awful lot of other places. I generally only compare it with other places in the UK, because that's who we get slagged off against. But I remember going to one city that was supposed to be the ultimate night out, and it was dreadful. It was a shocker. I spent a Saturday night there and never found a decent pub, never found a decent restaurant, and yet people were saying how much better it was than Hull. There's so much going on in Hull. One of the things I do in Hull, I run a business supper club, and we just take a business crowd to a different restaurant every month. We've been doing it since 2014. We're taking 30 people out tonight. You can't do that in a rubbish city, can you?
Yeah,
No.
there you go.
And it's I've forgotten where it was.
Like every quarter saying,
Yeah. Yeah, but about it not being a rehearsal. You get one go at it, so you've got to make the best of it that you can. And also make sure people coming after you can make the best of it. Whether that's kids, friends, people you're working with, the current environment where training and skills is a problem. That's been a problem for years. Why is it still a problem now?
It's always been a problem. Exactly.
Do we need to train people like that?
Yeah, I think the challenge is that I talk a lot about this. There's so much information out there at the minute. There's an information overload. And also the vehicle for learning hasn't changed from the industrial era.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a huge challenge. I have this when I go into organisations. Let's take a standard operating procedure of knowing how to do something. It used to just be written on a piece of paper.
Yep.
But let's talk about, I'm going to give you artificial intelligence to brainstorm as part of your standard work procedures, right?
Yeah.
As a business owner and in my marketing team, I put that in my marketing team. Now, if I just did a standard operating procedure on that, how do I communicate on one page what that is?
Yeah.
So what that means is we have to have video in there, but then you need to be able to record a video. You need to have the setup to speak into a video. You need to be articulate in front of the video.
Yep.
And
Yep.
So all of a sudden, it's still the same challenge, but the media and the message and the mode and the vehicle for it has all changed.
Yeah.
And a lot of businesses aren't ready for it. So that was where I would challenge back on that.
Yeah.
But it's in the next.
Here we go. In the last 5 years, Phil, what new habit or belief has had the most profound effect on your life?
I referred to it earlier about sitting down with a cup of coffee and doing a crossword. It's trying to lighten up and relax and make time to enjoy things. And I remember being told before we got married, and we got married 30 years ago last year, when you walk back down the aisle after the ceremony, you walk around, you got all these people, friends and family, take all those smiles in. And that's what you need to do, because if you don't, you never get it back. You can't say, let's get them all in there again and tell them to smile just as I was smiling on the day. But you're there, you've got one shot. It links to the rehearsal thing. You've got one shot. Take it all in as you come out. And it's applying that. It's taking those good things and then doing it in your day to day. Just finding the time to do good things, not overpower yourself with work. And that is really difficult. And partly because we're all doing more than we used to. And tech has got a bit to answer for there. One of the things I was talking to Marianne into about last week was when she's been in the travel trade 44 years, and email means that people can now take longer holidays because they know the work, they know what's going on, and they can organise it and come back to it. But they're not getting any less work; they're getting more work. So you do need to manage it smarter like that, and take your breaks, find the time to do good things.
Yeah. I totally agree.
I think you speak about it all the time
with anything.
within your line of work, don't you?
Yeah, what I do in mental health, and I go into organisations, we talk about taking breaks, we talk about the culture of the business, we talk about overworking, make sure you do have your breaks. make sure you're not working when you're on holiday or limit it. Yeah, it's something that I bang the drum about every single day when I'm out and about, because it's very important that we spend time with our family and friends, because there's no point building up successful businesses or getting yourself a career when the truth, the things that really matter are at home, and you neglect that. And I think you've got to look after yourself.
You got to look after yourself, but I think it's always back to challenging with these tech tools as well, in terms of no one works 24 hours a day. And it's like anything, we put locks on liquor cabinets, don't we, on drinks cabinets, right? We don't, technology is exactly the same. The human condition is we're obsessed with wanting to know more, we're inquisitive.
Yeah.
And the ping of that email, we're just inquisitive on it. So the thing I always challenge on is, set your working day up. I don't read emails until 4 o'clock during the day. You've all had my out of office response.
Yeah.
Loads of people get really discombobulated with that. But I do it, one, because it protects my mental health.
Yeah.
Because I can't be present at all times. I don't read emails over a weekend. Because anyone who knows me, they've all got my mobile number. Give me a ring and I'll do my best. But I am allowing people to project and put their crap onto me through email.
Yeah.
And run through a circus for them when I've only got enough capacity at certain times to do meaningful work. That doesn't mean that we don't have systems and processes in the background, but it all becomes about understanding, especially with tech. We don't have the ability, I don't believe, as humans, to say no. So we have to set systems up. So my phone automatically texts me out with these systems, texts me up this. It has a time limit on it. My wife has a password for it. I don't know that password. It will call it like a break glass in emergency. I might need it.
Yeah.
But we have to put these restrictions in. Why do we have speed limiters in cars, and why do we have laws? As humans, we're always going to take it to that next level. But I'm moving to the next one. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to yourself at 18, and what advice should you ignore?
The advice I would give is for people to be more confident, but not too confident, because I think it was certainly difficult for me at that age. Apparently I should have been brilliant with my A-levels. And I got 4, I got 3 E's and a D. I didn't get the grades I needed to go to university, but I'm having a good career. But I could have done with a lot more confidence there. Maybe it was distractions, maybe it was too much
music and beer,
music
and takeaways, and fine dining.
You get
with
to
you
the
too.
don't know if I was doing much fine dining when I was 18, but certainly bands and records. I remember getting, when I was about 15, somebody gave me £5 for my birthday.
What was the equivalent of that today then?
Well, I bought 2 albums for it. I bought 2 Elton John LPs, and I got so much grief off my dad. And I'm thinking, how much money have I made over the years from writing about music? And that was part of it. I didn't have the confidence then. The world's changed. People weren't making money from writing about music to the same degree in those days.
Well, I want to ask you two questions on this, actually.
Yeah.
I was having a debate on this about confidence, because there's two sides to it. Us British are very more reserved than the Americans. A lot of training I do is links out for a lot of Americans, because they're more open to failing and a business failing, and they've set up. So they're more open, aren't they? But us British, we have our stiff upper lip. And the thing on confidence, I agree with you with what being more confident, but sometimes it can come across as arrogant. We feel in the UK. I chose on this in that, if you believe, as long as you're not, the best way example I gave was, if you walk on an airplane and you've got your captain there for the airplane, and he goes, it's a bit windy out there today, but I love flying in the wind. I'm super confident. I find it fun, I find it amusing. Some of my best flights, if it's windy, if it's lightning, I want to be up there in that plane practicing, because I just love them situations, right? And he oozes confidence. That's who we want flying our plane, don't we?
Yep.
We don't want someone who's reserved, like, I don't. And I think there's a challenge I think we have around the word confidence in this world, because sometimes we don't like people to be too confident, stand out from the crowd, but actually you have to be confident. I think we need to, all of us need to be comfortable in being much more confident.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because if you're confident in what you do and you express that you are confident in what you do, other people will have confidence in you. Whereas if people walk by from you if they're not confident in you. And I think that's what you're trying to get at. And I take on board what Phil says. There's parts of being confident and not cocky, if you know what I mean. I think
It's a fine line.
Yeah, some fine line.
You need to back yourself, but you need to have the evidence to do that as well.
Yeah.
And the evidence comes from other people supporting you. So it's all right saying be more confident, but if you're managing people like that, if you're mentoring people like that, tell them what a good job they're doing.
Yeah.
Help them build the confidence.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
There was nobody doing that in my school.
Yeah.
Which links to the second bit there. The advice that I would reject. When I was at school and I told the careers teacher, who was a geography teacher, who was nothing to do with careers. He'd obviously gone to university. He'd become a teacher. He'd never worked outside a school or a university. And he told me that if I wanted to be a journalist, I had to get an English degree. That was rubbish. Because I never got an English degree. I never even got on an English course at a university. But I've done all right. I'm still doing all right. And I've got loads of mates who are doing great work in journalism. And they never went near a university. But that advice is still going out now. My lad was going through school and he's a very clever, bright lad. All he wants to do is tech for entertainment. So he's working on, he's one of the venue technicians at the Roundhouse in London. But left to the school, he wouldn't have got anywhere near that. He'd have gone off to somewhere and done a physics degree.
But this is back to my point. And I got point.
There's nothing about finding out find out what people are good at and try and support them.
But I think that
developing the skills to do it.
I'm going to keep banging these drum this year for a long time. The vehicle of learning is broken. That is for me. Education and university is good. I'm an entrepreneur residence at the old university, and I go in and help. But what always amazes me and astounds me is I give guest lectures quite often, and the things I talk about are so simple. And then they look at me like, why we talk like, and I'm asking, and I'm challenging back. But what is good is the universities and the people that can change are open to this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's back to that point for you to be an expert. Some people think it needs to be complicated, whereas that's far from the truth. I've hit him with the next one.
Here we go. Right, Phil, we all at times feel burnt out, unfocused, unenergised, overwhelmed. What do you do and what questions do you ask yourself?
I just, ask myself how I can take myself out of that and do something different for a while. And music, the way I'm set up at home, I've got 2 monitors. I've got a laptop over there.
Can't use tech, can they? We've got 2 monitors, we want to put laptop.
Yeah, I've got a laptop, which all the Zoom and Teams and all of that is on the laptop.
But it's not technical.
I haven't got a microphone or camera on my PC.
But you've got an actual laptop, haven't you?
I've got a laptop. I use that for overseas trips primarily. The last one I bought in 2018 for a conference I was working at in Thailand, following year in Australia. Since then, it's not left my desk because it's been used for Zoom and Teams. But if I hadn't had it there, I'd have needed to buy one at a time when it was impossible to get a laptop.
Tell us about it.
So I've got all them. And then coming down this side, I've got 2 racks of CDs up there. I've got some music, which I've just replaced, a system and turntable, all of that. And I've got another turntable and a little box that does, I don't do tech yet. It's got a CD.
I'm listening to all this, Leon, aren't you?
FM, DAB, Bluetooth, and there might be something else in there. I can't remember what. And now I've got a big box of records, lo-fi to albums and singles and all of that. They run across about 2 shelves. So if I want distractions, I'll just stick that on and turn it up loud and clear the air a bit. I mentioned the thing about reading some of my old stuff, because it's really bad if you're trying to get started on the story and you think, where's the end of it? I generally work through a minute, so I know what's there. And then it's just a case of pulling them out and organising it. But sometimes you need that trigger.
And sometimes being creative as well. I remember reading about Einstein. He talks about going on Lake Geneva in a boat. And quite funny, he was a rubbish sailor. And a number of times he got rescued. But when he got challenged, he said that he'd go there and a problem he'd been sat trying to work or he could fix, getting nearly dying. He nearly died a few times on Lake Geneva. His ideas would be solved. He'd come to it. So there's so much power in getting outside of your own head.
Yeah, just clear it. And also having that ability to go back to something that you've done before that was really good. And I don't have a file. Maybe I should have a folder of stuff that people have said is really good. But it's things where I've written a nice piece and it's nicely flowing. It's written freely. It's got some real information in there, some good structure to it, but also things that are a bit wacky, a bit quirky. Because if you approach a job with your head like that, then I think you're going to get firm.
I think there's something in this because I like to share this with you actually. I got told, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy, just public speaker I'd seen speak, and he talked about have a folder where it's got loads of successes that you've had.
Yeah. And
I forget the name of what he called it, I had a name for it, but for example, I've got, keep yelling, some of the great reviews from these.
Yes.
or someone might send you a real nice email, or there might be a nice photo, or customer testimonials, or all just little different things. And I have that folder there. And sometimes when I'm having a really crap day, the week's gone bad. I said, I was butchering the I said, I'm having one of them weeks where I've been hit by a month and it's 10 o'clock. That's like a couple of hours. I will take myself down the front here, on the front, near the water, and I'll just spend 10 minutes going through that folder thinking, yeah, as bad as it is now, there's some good stuff coming. I think that's the same with ideas as well. You just keep going to, I love that, Phil.
You've got to have good stuff to look forward to. It's just like having a whiteboard in your PC, isn't it?
Exactly.
Is it better to have a whiteboard on the wall? You've got your Post-its here. They look like the jobs you need to do. But there's nothing wrong with having another that's got just stuff up there. That's
I have it in my notes. And I'm looking at out this week, but one of the questions I ask myself every single week, what am I looking forward to?
Yeah.
And this week, because I had a little bit longer in bed this morning, I didn't fill this out completely, but I will for my dinner time today is what I'm looking forward to this week. And then the other thing I had filled in the end of the week, what did I do for me this week? Now, I already know I went to the rugby yesterday. We're going to go catch up. I mean, from the bits, sometimes we don't focus on them little bits. Them little 1%.
I think it's going when you've just done something good. We've just been to Finland for a week. Great. What's next? You don't want to come and say, can't do anything now for 8. So we're going out for lunch next weekend.
You're a program called What's Next, are you?
For ages.
Yeah, I have a program called What's Next because people do stuff and then they go, what's next?
Yeah.
We always talk about the what's next and keep us going. Leon, are you going to
worry? Because if people are struggling, and they get the chance to do something really nice, and I've never been in this position, but this is just how I think it would be. And you do that really nice thing, and then you go home, and you knock the microphone flat, and you go home, and you think, oh, that's it then. What else is there?
Yeah.
And that must be a really low point. So you've got to keep following the high points. And it doesn't mean you've got to go to Finland again or double it and go to Alaska or somewhere like that. You've just got to have nice things going on. So the other thing on that list, the things that help me clear my head, me and Jane will just say, we'll go out for a meal Friday night or Wednesday night or Sunday afternoon, whatever. Just because I do work nearly every weekend, but then I don't work full days during the week.
Yeah.
On Friday, I'm going to Gould. Gould gets another mention. I'm doing a business week thing in the morning. There's a launch event for business week, but then me and one of my mates, we're going to Gould. Some fella there has got an art exhibition about, there's some railway stuff in it, some music. He's from Hull. He sounds like an interesting fella. I said, we'll go and see that. And they're not going to be long because it's only Gould. Then we're coming.
You're not driving though, are you?
No, I'm not. No, it's cool.
The two apart from it, Paul.
Yeah. He's driving because he loves driving anyway. And then we'll go back to his house, dump his car at Park Avenue, and we're going drinking down Newland now. And that's on a Friday afternoon. I should be working.
Class.
Great.
But I'll make it up over the weekend.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That flexibility is
powerful.
Yeah.
I'm going to the next one.
Go on then.
Who in the world would like to interview past and present and why?
I've got a list. First one is John who had to apologise. Obviously, he's passed. And then it's a bit of fun, but there's also a very serious one I want to mention. The person I would most like to interview, and I have no idea what I would do with it, it's Elton John, because he was the guy I grew up listening to. And when it got to about the Caribou album, I thought everything went a bit too commercial, but that was probably me reaching a certain age and going into more different stuff. But I'd want to talk to him about music, not just his own, football and cricket, because I know he's into all of those things. And that's a really good mix. The hard bit would be finding things to write and publish that people don't already know. But I think he's a remarkable fella. He's taken a load of flack over the years. There's maybe a lot of things people don't know about him, but would he tell you? The thing that impresses me most, I mean, I mentioned our Matthew working at the Roundhouse. Elton John has a permanent booking there for seats, whether he's going or not. And it just means if he's around, he'll go. Whoever's on, regardless, because he supports the venue, he supports the new talent coming through. And I think that's an amazing thing. And you could say, yeah, he can afford it, but
surely sound, isn't it?
He doesn't have to do it.
He doesn't have to do it.
Whether he's there or not, they're getting the benefit from it because they're a charity and they do some amazing work. They bring through some amazing bands. And I'd just like to go and maybe spend a day with him down there and talk about what's what, find out from him, see what he's doing.
Totally get that.
I can't see it'll ever happen. I've told our Matthew if you see him wandering around one day.
We're getting enough listeners on the show, don't we? He
might be listening.
Rocket Man.
Yeah, but then the serious one, and it's about what you guys are doing with Andy's Man Club. And it's, when you've got, from the war, you've got the unknown soldier. What about the unknown victims of depression? The people who aren't there anymore because it became too much for them. And the interview would be about what could somebody have done to stop you doing what you did. And that becomes really tricky, because how do you do it? But I think it might be something we can do as a project. Just produce an interview based on the experiences you've heard about. Or it may be something that, we could set up with people who haven't yet reached that stage.
Forget the name of the
as part of...
There's some research I was doing, something similar. Forget the name of the gentleman right now, but it will come to me, and I'll share it in the article. But in America, there's the Golden Gate Bridge where they are, and there's a guy,
Kevin Hines.
He's Kevin Hines. Thank you for that. And he has an amazing story where he actually did. He tried to take his own life, and it didn't happen. We also had a fabulous Jansen Target, didn't we?
Yeah.
Who played for FC. He tried to take his own life, and we discussed.
Yeah.
And I think, interestingly, back to this word where I always come back to this citizen piece where we are doing stuff. I think what needs to happen, and you're part of that movement as well, being in the press, we need to give them platform for these people to talk about.
Yeah.
We need to come together. We're doing some great work in the community, not just Bandy's Man Club, but the Suicide Prevention Board.
Yeah.
So I'm with you in terms of more needs to be done. I was only over at Barton the other week doing a session where we was brainstorming of what's right, what's wrong, what's confused, what's missing. So more needs to be done. And I think, any help, if you think you can help do that, I'm sure we could get people together for a project.
It's careful working out the angle, because I don't know much about it, but I do reckon it's the sort of thing you need to be very careful with, because you could end up doing more harm than good.
I think there's two sides.
That's why you have to be guided back
but I think,
to work in that.
But I think what's quite interesting, though, when you mention that, I was only talking to people close to me when we've been doing this man company 7 years now, is it?
Yeah,
it is. And I remember when we first got involved, we don't speak about religion or politics or medication, right? Because we're not unbiased. But also, what people forget about with the club and stuff is that we're not experts, we're just normal people.
Yes.
So you're asking my opinion. Yeah, we might have a load of data points where we've helped 94,000 men this year, something like that.
94,000 visits.
Yeah. Oh, and we've got 700 facilitators, and all this is great. But it's back to your point about not having an English degree. At the end of the day, our mission is so not only to experience the death and devastation that suicide brings. So when you put that as your guiding principle, and we've had Jansen on the podcast talking about a very dark subject, but the only way we can heal, sometimes, one of my favourite quotes is, sometimes you have to step into the dark to see the light. And sometimes you have to do dark things to realise that there is a better way of doing things, right? And I think that's what I think we need to do. And I think just as human beings, forget about being experts. If we can create a safe environment for someone to talk about that, and I think all it can do is help shine a light on the whole problem that fortunately is not going away.
It's not just about being experts. It's about having the experience of working with the people you've worked with. You will learn stuff about that. You'll have an idea of their needs and what can be done to help them, which is different from what can be done to stop.
Yeah, no, it could be that.
But what can bring something a bit positive to it that alleviate problems a little bit. That's what you're doing.
No, love that.
And I think looking at that in a bit more detail, there's been won't mention any names, but there's been a high-profile piece and story in the papers for the last few weeks, and people connected to that case will all be saying, "What could we have done to help?" That question needed asking weeks ago.
He's needed asking years ago, and we still ask it. I think the challenge we have is, when we talk this about, even you trying to get stories put in these different publications, unfortunately, a lot of the good work what we talk about, community's doing. For some reason, that doesn't bubble up to the top, and unfortunately, negative news sells. So I think we have a challenge of that.
We did that last October. We did the ball, celebrating the fantastic work that all the businesses had done to help us. And we wanted to celebrate it. And then we got asked, can we do it on another way? Can we take another? And it was all, it didn't fit. It was all dour. And it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. We can celebrate what the successes people have done and how they've helped. And they wasn't interested in that. So we didn't go ahead with it. It didn't fit.
So I think part of it is that's why we've got a couple of million followers ourselves. Yeah. Just got to bang the drum beat and do it our own way. And hopefully, as we're seeing, sure, good will come for it. You ready to the last one?
I am.
We've got through just over an hour. And we've done well because it's just a treasure trove
Yes, of information.
and
Yeah,
stories.
he is.
Could be like 20 podcasts here, couldn't they?
Is there anything we should have asked you, but we didn't?
Yeah, it's an easy one. This is, am I available for commissions? And it's for press releases, books, whatever.
No, but again, how can people, so just give yourself a blatant plug, how can people find out about you and how can they work with you?
Yeah, this is fun. I've been working on a website for about 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure I need it because I'm busy already, but I am going to do it because I've got no plans to retire because it's not a difficult.
You enjoy it though, don't you?
Yeah,
we
I
spoke
love
about
it.
it.
It's great fun and I can manage the workflow. I can turn it up and turn it down if I want to. I just need to make sure if I do the website, it doesn't generate more work than I can handle. And it becomes something that keeps you ticking when, if I do retire. But it's not like digging coal. There's mental pressures on doing what you do.
If I get you some AI sorted,
Maybe, yeah.
I reckon we can get you going for years.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more lights in there. I'm going to digitize it.
Well, I'm a couple of years away from pension, but a lot of people work forever in my sort of job. And it's for as long as you've got the ideas and the contacts and people wanting to read it. And I think there's plenty of that because of what I do.
But you're big on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
At Phil Ascough.
Simple as that.
Yeah. So I haven't got a website where they can contact me. The email address is phil@ascoughpr.co.uk. Drop me a note and reasonable rates, but I'm quite happy to talk to people about things or other people that can help them, things we can do that won't cost them. I don't mind doing a little bit for nothing, but you've got to pay the bills and you've got to get stuff coming.
What we'd say is that you've always helped and championed Andy's Man Club in this region, which I want to thank you for the bottom of my heart because we are a charity, we struggle. And I'm always trying to get a story out here there to bang that drum for us, and you never say no.
And what you've saying there about getting attention, the press release we did at the beginning of the year, which I did for the Deep Business Centre involving Andy's Man Club and Vision. I nearly said Vision Express, Vision Network upstairs.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic effort by them. 2 million steps. And that's just one crew. There's the others raising money all through.
We see it all the time, and this is why we wanted to celebrate what all the organisations have done for Andy's Man Club in this great city.
That's right. But that press release, I've sent you the report on who used it. Maybe 7 or 8 media organisations used that, which means another 7 or 8 didn't.
Yeah.
Well, and I can't understand why they wouldn't do it because it's a good story. It's partnership work.
It's human nature at times.
Really,
and I think sometimes
immense effort and great achievement as well.
And I think we don't pay for any media or marketing and other organisations does, so it all get political on other sides. But then the great work, what I see is we're on Emmerdale at the minute, we're on Coronation Street.
Yeah,
we're everywhere.
It's absolutely fantastic.
It'd be nice to have, but if it's not to be, it's not to be. But I just want to thank Phil for an absolutely incredible
it's
podcast.
Been brilliant. I could listen to Phil all day.
So because me and you have got to go to a meeting soon.
We have. We'd have been carried on.
But we needed another half an hour, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
But I think this is to be continued because
it is.
One of the things what I want to just say on air as well is, Phil, you're so passionate about this city, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And I am, Paul is. And you know a lot of people, and I think if we get more people onto the show and other things, and we've had people from, we've had people from America, the Vice President of Disney, but I was saying to Phil, I want the best people in on this show.
Yeah, we certainly do.
Because we've got some amazing people here. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
That's Paul checking out.
We'll check it out.
Phil checking out. Thank you.